What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about the Traitors Season 2, Episode 7. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa. This was kind of a weird episode of The Traitors because, unlike every other episode, we didn't see a banishment, and we also still have no clue who got murdered. So I'm a little bit annoyed because I feel like that broke up some really nice momentum of this game.
Yeah, every single week we talk about how good they do the cliffhangers, and we're like, oh, can't wait till the next week. It's going to be so great. It's going to be so exciting. Feel like this episode was sort of dropped the ball. I'm like, the momentum's gone.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why they did that because I'm kind of just like, a lot of people are speculating that production got rid of the banishment so that Peter wouldn't go home because there was a high chance that he was going to get banished. But that feels like questionable to me.
That does seem odd because I feel like for these kinds of shows, the twists are planned before the show even starts. So you can't claim like production interference because they're like, no, we've planned, okay, episode 7, this day, this banishment, this murder is going to be this twist. So people can't be like, it was rigged against me. You caused me to lose the game and try to sue the TV show.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's just very strange, just the way it all happened. I was kind of annoyed, but
Speaking of cliffhangers, we start off this week learning the cliffhanger from last week, where is Peter going to accept the opportunity to become a traitor or not? It was freaking wild. Peter says no, and I was like, what the heck? Seriously, I would guess that he would say yes. You have a better chance of winning money and just winning in general as a traitor, probably. I'm like, this is so lame. I hope he doesn't win anything now.
yeah, it's one of those things where even if, like, theoretically Peter does make it to the end and gets out all the traitors, he still has his group of 5. And, like, at this moment, the highest number there will ever be of traitors is 3. And you don't even need all 3 traitors to get to the end in order to win the money. You could be a sole trader and get everything to yourself rather than have to split it 5 ways. So,
Exactly. I'm like, if I were Parvati and Phaedra here, I'd be so butthurt. Like, I'd murder you the next night, like they should have done if he weren't safe tonight. I'm like, yo, you didn't accept our traitorness. You are going to get killed now. Like, you have no use left in here because I just think it's so rude. You have to accept.
yeah, I mean, I guess you can make the argument that this now means that his faithful are going to be even more faithful to him, but I feel like it's interesting because I think Peter is kind of alienating anyone who's not in his core group of 5, and that's not going to look good for him moving forward, I feel like.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, this episode's going to be interesting. It's really bad for the traders that this is basically a wasted round for them. They didn't get to murder anyone at the nighttime portion because they chose to recruit, and their recruitment person said no. So basically, it's a net zero gain. Nothing happened. Bad for them because they wasted a move here. Very interested to see how Parvati can get out of this one because she's getting a lot of heat. So we get to breakfast. Everyone else realizes, yo, nobody is dead. So somebody was probably recruited, similar to what Parvati is thinking. I'm like, okay, you could try to throw Peter under the bus if he confesses to being seduced, but this could be very difficult if his faithful alliance really, really like him. It might be hard to get sus on him.
Yeah, I do think they did a pretty good job of getting sus on Peter this episode, but I think it was because it wasn't Parvati or, I guess, Phaedra, kind of, but it wasn't either of them who first suggested voting for Peter. Literally, all Phaedra said was, I tried to go into the room when Peter and his
Hmm.
posse were hanging out and they wouldn't let me. And I feel like that's the it's one of those things where, like, acting like you don't want it makes it so other people want it more rather than them trying really hard to get suspicion on Peter and then finding out that by trying so hard they're actually clearing Peter's name.
I agree. Like Peter and the Faithful Alliance being in a room alone together, excluding other people, that's a big no-no because okay, there's 2 traitors, 3 traitors maybe since they said there could be 2 to 4 and you just got Dan out. Half the other people left are going to be faithful and you're going to be excluding other faithfuls. So, like not letting MJ in, not letting Phaedra in, it just gives them a bad look. It makes them look very, very cliquey, similar to like the housewives being thrown under the bus a little bit because people see them as a big voting block, as a big alliance. Nobody wants that. And Sandra pointed out so well this episode, like what we've been saying this entire season. At the end of the day, this game is a numbers game. It really doesn't matter who's in what role until you get down to the end and the money is seriously on the line. It's just numbers to get to the end. And so Sandra doing the little balls and showing everyone the numbers, I'm like, yeah, this is literally all you need in this game. You need an alliance. It doesn't really matter who you vote out. And at the end of the day, you want to vote faithfuls out too, because then you share the money with less people at the end. You don't want 10 people at the end. Like, you need to get it down to 2 or 3 so then you're not splitting the money 10 million ways. And it's like the game is not going to let you get to the end with that many people. So you still got to vote faithfuls, traitors out. It doesn't really matter what anyone's role is.
Yeah, and I think in a way you can make the argument that being in the leftover squad is better because if you know that Parvati is a traitor, that's way better than like not having any idea of who's still a traitor in your group. Because I feel like if Peter hadn't come clean to the Faithful Five or whatever, that would have been a really easy way for him to win some money. But I think B, that's kind of the worry that people have. Like there's a snake in the grass. And I feel like we were never shown why they are all so convinced that each other is a faithful. And so it's kind of like maybe you would rather be in the leftovers and have a good idea of who the traitors are who are left than, you know, be in the Faithful Five, excluding everyone else, especially because right now, like Sandra said, the leftovers have the number.
Yeah, like 5 if it isn't a majority here, no one really it's like high school all over again. You don't wanna be someone that's being excluded, you don't wanna be left out of the clique. Like, MJ walking in there and then not wanting to leave and then just standing there, it was so freaking awkward, but, like, good for her for just standing there for a little bit and then slowly shuffling out, but, like, as a full-grown adult, you probably don't wanna have that feeling of being back in high school and being left out of the clique, even if it's not like a cool kids clique. It's like the faithful of the faithful clique, and then people are feeling excluded and might as well just get the numbers on the other side and start voting them out.
I think it's also with the Faithful Five, like they didn't need to have a conversation that was long enough for like 3 different people to try to interrupt them. Like I feel like their problem is none of them can be like succinct with their speaking. Like literally just say enough to make sure everyone's on the same page and then scatter. Like I think the fact that they're trying so hard to be a clique is what's the problem. I think if they were just a normal alliance, like they all voted together, but weren't making a point to exclude everyone else, then they probably would get a lot further.
I agree. Like, keep it chill. Keep it like Dan and Parvati keeping their relationship under wraps. Like, talk briefly in little corners. But maybe, you don't need all 5 of you together all the time discussing something. Maybe get like 2 people together or 3 people together. Allow like the groups to mix and mingle so it's not so exclusionary of other people that people are starting to get a little bit peeved that they're not the most faithful of the faithful. They're not kept in this alliance. But I guess from like Peter's point of view, and in this conversation, he's basically telling everyone the plan. He's like, okay, I got to keep all the himbos in line. You have to spell it out for them, XYZ. Otherwise, people are going to do random stuff and start coming up with their own ideas. Like, no, just follow me because you all have bad ideas.
Yeah. I think another thing is it does make sense that the Faithful Five don't want to bring in other faithfuls because, like we said, faithfuls at the end have to split the money however many ways. But also, again, you need to make sure you can actually get to the end first.
And, like, with the faithfuls having to split the money, it also makes sense for the other faithfuls not in this alliance to want to vote them out because, like, these 5 aren't going to vote each other out compared to you on the outside of the alliance. So your chance of winning money is less because they're so tight, they're going to vote you out over themselves, and then they're gonna split the money. Like, they might not wanna share it with more people, just vote everyone else out. So it makes more sense to want to get them out.
Exactly.
But I thought here Trishelle said something very, very smart. She's like, nah, we should go after Phaedra because of what Dan said, similar to what we were talking about last week. And Trishelle mentioned it last week. It's like, okay, it's smart to want to go after Phaedra first because she has so many friends, because there is a lot of housewives in the show still. Makes sense. And then it's like, okay, we can go after Parvati at the end. It's similar to what we've said all season. If you've sussed out a traitor, you don't necessarily want to vote them out too early because then the traitors will just get another chance to recruit. It's like the devil you know over the devil you don't. If you know who the traitors are, keep them in so they don't get to continue to recruit, then just vote them out in the finale.
I'm also curious how convinced the rest of the faithful are that Phaedra is a traitor. Because it sounds like Trishelle is pretty convinced, and it sounds like some other people might have said some stuff about Phaedra being a traitor, but I don't think it's as like public knowledge as Parvati being a traitor is.
Yeah, but then Peter's like, nah, we need to vote out Parvati first. But I agree with Trishelle. I would just try to vote out Phaedra because she's more popular and then just save Parvati until you get to the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. I do think, though, the fact that they brought up both names can be a little bit dangerous because it's like all you have to have is for one person to be confused, and then you might lose the potential to, actually get someone out because it seems like the leftovers are all kind of in a, in agreement that it's going to be Peter who they try to vote out. Like CT is not totally convinced, but again, all you would need is for one or two of the faithful 5 to be like, actually, I want to get out Phaedra and not vote with Parvati. That would possibly cause a schism.
Yeah, and we've seen in Survivor, people don't know how to write a name down, even though they're told the plan multiple times, and they still somehow manage to mess it up. So you can't put things past people, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think that's another reason why it was so frustrating that there wasn't a banishment this episode because it seemed like things were really coming to a head. Like either they were going to banish another traitor or they were going to banish like the king of the faithful alliance, and I feel like that would have been so much more interesting than just this weird like trust exercise.
I agree. It's like there was so much tension building this episode. Like, okay, can Parvati get out of this? Can Peter get out of this? It's like one of them is probably getting voted out, banished at tonight's roundtable. It's going to be so juicy and dramaful. Like, who can talk the best to get the most people on their side? It was about to be so good, but then they sort of just ruin all of it with the twist. But the twist probably pre-planned, so it's not like they were rigging it. But we get to the mission, and you have to carry the gold through the woods and not get caught after answering questions. And you go in pairs. Uh, um, Fastest time wins a shield at the end. I thought this challenge was very fun. I'm like, it's sort of funny to watch all of these like semi-rich, semi-famous people get really dirty because they're so prim and proper and preppy, and then they're like covered in mud or trapped in the nets. It's like not something you see every day.
Yeah, I think the funniest part is like compared to a lot of Survivor challenges, this was very clean. So that was kind of fun. And I felt like the questions were interesting because they were like, I would say, pretty like simple questions. Like you just had to listen and pay attention. But it also apparently was really hard.
Yeah, I feel like they were very Big Brother-esque questions, and okay, Dan and Janelle are both gone, but like Big Brother does a lot of stuff like this, like random things around the BB house, like okay, how many ducks are on this wall and you need to know, or what day did this happen on, or who said this line and what was the exact line that this person said. So I'm like, okay, maybe the Big Brother people would have been good at this because they're more like attuned to be listening to what the host says or counting and paying attention to the house that they're living in. It did remind me a lot of Big Brother challenges.
Yeah, but guess we don't know if they would be any good at it. Dan got voted out too early for us to tell.
But it was so funny watching the famous people get all gooped and all this stuff. And it came down to Parvati and Sandra's teams. I thought the host, he wasn't going to announce who won the shield. I thought it would have been more interesting to have some mystery around who actually won the shield, but he does, and Kevin and Sandra do win. And Sandra was so happy and so excited. It was sort of cute to watch, but I feel like they should have kept it a secret.
Yeah, I think the only reason they didn't keep it a secret is because Kevin and Sandra got to be the ones to decide like who got safe at the next thing. So it would have been hard to do their whole safety chain idea if they didn't announce who got a shield.
Yeah, like it makes sense with the twist that comes up, but in the moment I was like, dang, there could have been so much good strategy here if they didn't share who it was, and then Parvati could fake it having a shield kind of thing, or Sandra could fake it and then they could save more people. Like, would have been interesting, but it does make sense with the twist that happens that they're the leaders of the safety chain coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was interesting. Before we get to the twist, it is like a regular round table evening. Everyone's strategizing, everyone's talking. Like we mentioned, would have been a good episode. There's a lot of tension building between the two factions here. And Peter is like, okay, Phaedra, Parvati, let's talk. Let's all work together. Phaedra's like, this is making me uncomfortable. I'm going to leave the room. I'm like, Peter, you should have accepted the invite. You can't just invite the two traitors into a room and like try to schmooze them after you've just said no and been so rude by not accepting the seduction.
Yeah, I think also Parvati was like, why are you trying to get in a room with us now? Like, why are you wanting to work with a traitor? I feel like the only name that they would have been able to agree on would be a faithful who's not a part of Peter's five. And like that would be a bad choice for
Mhm.
Parvati and Phaedra because they have the leftovers kind of not in their pocket, I would say, but the leftovers are still willing to play with Parvati and Phaedra. And so I think voting out one of them would be bad. So
Yeah, like it's not in Parvati and Phaedra's best interest to try to align with Peter unless Peter is willing to vote out one of his own faithful five alliance. But as we've seen, that seems sort of unlikely because one of the reasons why he didn't accept the traitorship was because he would feel bad trying to kill his friends. So it just your paths aren't going to align anymore. The ship has sailed, the train has left the station, like you're in two separate paths now. You're gonna get murdered.
yeah, so again, it seems like he kind of wants the best of both worlds, but he can't have it.
Nope. I feel like Peter not accepting probably loses him the game. Peter accepting wins him the game, like we said last week. But Alan's like, no round table, no banishment. We're all going to meet in the woods. And I'm like, dang, this sucks that they can't banish uh, because it's bad for the numbers. Maybe it's good for Parvati because maybe she would have got voted out at the round table. Maybe it's good for Peter because maybe he would have got voted out at the round table. But like losing the banishment is just one less person you have, like one more person that's still in the game, which is bad for the traitors. Like the traitors already didn't murder someone last round because Peter didn't accept the seduction. So now they're like 2 rounds without getting rid of someone. The numbers are just bad for the traitors. Like each time you want to try to eliminate someone, so the numbers are better for the traitors.
Yeah, and it seems like the Traitors have just stalled, which again is why I feel like this episode wasn't very satisfying.
But Kevin and Sandra, they start the safety chain. Sandra, I'm like, yo, you gotta push for your way. Don't let Kevin pick someone in the Faithful Alliance first, because then the chain might just go all five of them down the line. MJ is mad that she wasn't chosen by Sandra, which I guess I don't know. I was like, is for me, I didn't really see it necessarily as a big deal because Sandra picks someone else on their team. She picks Sheree. But then a lot of people seem to get butthurt by this game. Trishelle's one, I feel like makes more sense why she would be more hurt because she and CT have a relationship outside the game. But like MJ and Sandra just met. You can't be that mad at Sandra here.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, like Parvati could be more mad at Sandra than MJ is. I feel like even if Parvati's like, oh, I know we've been enemies, but like people are talking about how long they've known each other, and it's like Parvati and Sandra have known each other like a good chunk of time at this point. So I think it's interesting because you kind of have to play both a strategic game and like a personal game. And I think one of the reasons why I think Trishelle is particularly hurt is because it is also good for CT strategically to keep her because she's very
Mhm.
faithful. Like she and John are in the same alliance, and it's like if you wanted to pick one of the five most faithful to save, why couldn't you pick the one who is also your really close friend?
Yeah, and like Parvati, I feel like shouldn't be hurt that Phaedra didn't pick her. Like if Phaedra picked her, that'd be so sus, like so obvious. That's not a good thing. CT choosing John over Trishelle. Okay, Trishelle can be hurt from that. I do wish though, like other TV shows do a good job of explaining people's previous relationships. I feel like for me, even though I've seen the challenge, like I know CT, I don't know Trishelle's seasons of the challenge. So I'm like, okay, what is their relationship? How good of friends are they? What was their like falling out that led to this being such like a big moment kind of thing? So it's like I would have wanted some kind of flashback or explanation of like what this kind of relationship means to them and why that would mean she's so hurt by this. And I was like, oh, I would love some background details here.
Yeah, I also would have loved like Sheree and Phaedra. Like Phaedra was like, "Oh, we've known each other 20 years," and I'm like, I would like a highlight reel of their relationship because I feel like we've never seen them interact.
Yeah, it's like it's probably got ups and downs like any kind of relationship. So like are they friendly now? Did they hate each other? Did they get in a big fight before? For like all these people, I'd want to know. But up for elimination tonight are Parvati, MJ, Bergie, Kate, and Trishelle. Peter is safe, so Trishelle probably on the chopping block, or you'd get Bergie out here for murdering. If you're Parvati and Phaedra, you'd probably keep MJ and Kate around because they're willing to vote on your side and they are housewives. Maybe if you're Parv, you try to get rid of one of the housewives, but I would say Trishelle or Bergie probably are getting murdered here.
Yeah, and I hope that it's Bergie, just because I feel like Bergie, like Parvati said, is more of Peter's yes man. But I'm also interested because she said like this might put a lot of heat on my back, and so I'm kind of curious, like what choice would put a lot of heat on her.
Yeah, I would personally try to vote or like murder Bergie here. I would want to keep Trishelle around because her and CT might have some beef coming up now. Like with Trishelle mad at CT, maybe she just wants to go on revenge and like vote him out or something like that. I would want to keep people that are fighting in the house or have some tension. So low key, if there's tension, that sort of maybe takes the focus off of you if two other people are fighting. I try to get Bergie out here.
Yeah, I wonder. I would have liked to see more like resolution between CT and Trishelle. Like they kind of talked, but I feel like because they didn't really get a lot of time to talk alone, it didn't feel very resolved.
Yeah, like the turret talk, it was sort of awkward. Phaedra's just like, Parvati, you gotta be nicer. You're too ice queen. Parvati seems like sort of pissed off by this. And then that's the episode. I was like, okay, so nothing really happened. This isn't a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, I feel like the only cliffhanger is like, oh, who's going to be murdered? But even then, with only five people up for grabs, it didn't feel that interesting.
And only 4, because Parvati's not gonna kill herself probably, like, is that even allowed in the rules? So, it's like, they shoulda just showed us who was gonna get killed.
Yeah, that would have, I think, inspired some more speculation about like what next week is going to be like and all of these other things, especially because, like we said, there was no banishment.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, all these other TV shows are coming back now. Australian Survivor is back. They just released the cast for US Survivor. We're going to get some overlap in these TV shows. So I'm like, dang, maybe I should put my time into we got to do our Survivor cast assessment soon, Alyssa.
Yes, we do, and that's going to be super exciting.
Yeah, so lots of good TV coming up. Still excited, at least since it's Monday now. We only have to wait 3 days until the next Traders episode. I'm excited to see what happens. Like, hopefully the momentum from this week can continue into next week, and like, is it still going to be a Peter versus Parvati roundtable next week? Because it would be such a shame, like, if this twist ruins that tension between these two factions and something else random happen next week. Like, I want to see Peter and Parvati go head to head and let the best one not get eliminated next week.
I mean, I feel like it already kind of ruined some of the tension because Sandra's now doubting, like, oh, Peter seemed really worried, so maybe he's not actually a traitor. So I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, so excited for next week. Hopefully, there is some drama that happens. Alyssa and I will have to do our Survivor cast assessment coming up since they did just announce the next season of Survivor's cast, which is very exciting. Lots of talk on the internet, and that comes back in like 2 weeks, which is so soon.
Yes, so we're really excited for that. We're really excited to keep on watching the Traitors. So let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.